in the creative field, we can do it all, right? We can throw it all on the canvas. It doesn't have to be perfect. A lot of it is just about the doing of it. Like, make bad art before you make good art. Just make the art, just give the offering, and worry less about the likes and whatever.
Hello, welcome to Impact the World, where my guest this week is Ayesha Ophelia. So Ayesha is someone I crossed paths with about 7 years ago at a conference that we were both speaking at, and I immediately liked her and had a feeling about her, and have watched her and her work over the last 7 years just continue to develop and bloom. And one of the things I particularly love about Ayesha is she has an incredible ability to both generate creativity and curate creativity, which is its own kind of art form. And through all of this, she weaves teaching, wisdom, empowerment, and divination. And we touch on all of these things, including her latest book, The New Romantics, and what is lighting her up at this time in the world. So it was a beautiful conversation, and you can find all of Ayesha's work at AyeshaOphelia.com. And we will put links, as usual, in the show notes to how you can find her and follow her. And I highly recommend following her on Instagram. She has given me some of the best laughs combined with insight moments through what she curates on her Instagram page. So enjoy this conversation with Ayesha. This one has been a long time coming for me and planned. So it was a delight to have her here in the studio. Ayesha, thank you so much for being here today. This has been a long time coming, so I'm really glad that we're actually sat together here in the studio, and thank you for coming.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me.
So we met each other, we were just working out, we think it was 7 years ago, at the Conscious Media Festival in Austin, and we were both presenting there, and then somehow we ended up in a car together with a few others, and then I always remember that you very sweetly dropped me off at the airport on the last day. You offered to take me to the airport, so we got to know each other a little bit, but I didn't really know your work or anything at the time. And so then I started following you on social media, and to this day, your Instagram curation of hilarious and also very insightful spiritual memes, and the way you combine the whole thing is fantastic. And I think not that many months ago, I even wrote to you and said, thank you so much. I needed that this morning, because the release that those curations provide and the insight are really powerful. And then, of course, because I'm a creative, your massively creative aura really appeals to me, in the way that you infuse creativity into your gifts of spirituality. And I have to say words, because you're a real wordsmith as well, and you use words and creativity in such a mystical way. So it's been a pleasure to know of your work over the years and get to be a recipient of it. And thank you for what you do.
Oh, I love that. Yeah, my pleasure.
Yeah. And you've been on quite a journey, I know, in recent years with creating various things, but I'd love to touch on your book here, The New Romantics, which was new to me. I know it came out late last year, but it's the art of musical divination. So could you perhaps expand a little bit on what this book serves, or what this book calls us to?
Yeah, sure. I'd love to. I know you have a special relationship with music, and I do too. I grew up in a very musical house. There was always music on. My mom was a singer. Actually, my grandmother was a classically trained opera singer. And so there was just always music around. It always felt really important to me. And then later in life, music started finding me at these key moments, like we were talking about before. And I coined a little word called a harmonicity. So like a synchronicity is like divine alignment, and divine alignment with song is a harmonicity. And so it started happening more and more and more, especially after my mom passed. And I was like, I think my mom's communicating with me. Something that I really tried to do as she was in the kind of twilight of her life was to really pay attention to what her energy felt like. And so the songs started to come. And so I was like, I think that there's like actually some methodology in this. And I started to Google things, and I learned about Shufflemancy, which is just kind of what this book does, but it gives you a step-by-step guide to really begin to harness music as the intelligent, vast, connective tissue that it really is. And, also just Spotify started, like, the algorithm started being like, I feel like it's paying attention to me. I think about this song, it'll start playing. There must be really something to this. So I sat down and thought about the process and kind of laid it out in book form and wanted to present it to the world, because I started sharing little clips on my social media and my stories, and people were like, whoa, I think this actually kind of works. So it's been fun to actually put it into a book and then allow people to connect with it the way that they would like to.
What I've enjoyed in the bits of the book that I've been able to dip into, it's interesting. I've known about Shufflemancy as an experience for 30 years. And I've talked to friends, but I didn't know there was a name.
Yeah.
I didn't know there was a methodology. And even just in the couple of pages of your book that I was able to dip into before this today, it's really interesting to have it laid out for you. And it's actually really important. So I love that you recognized there was a methodology and you took it upon yourself to create a blueprint for us. And again, the book is so creative, which is so you, but it's beautifully done inside. It is its own piece of art.
Thank you.
So yeah, I highly recommend it to anybody. But yeah, no, I love that you have given that framework to it, because not enough of us perhaps know about it or consider it in that way.
Yeah, and part of what I really wanted to do was combine a few things that I love, which are like culture, creativity, art, and this, musical divination. And I hadn't really heard of it going as far as I took it, but I was like, that's perfect, actually. It's kind of out in the ethos, but now I can give people like the blueprint, the exact steps that they can take to create their own sort of like sacred playlist, because it's not too dissimilar from, having an oracle card in front of you. You have sort of an energetic card, and then you go about the business of shuffling the same way you would shuffle cards. And then you get that immediate feedback. And I tested it over and over and over again in all kinds of ways, which are talked about in the book. But, with my mom, with a friend who had just passed, she sent a few songs that like make the hairs on my arms stand up because of, how she passed and what was going on. So I really do feel like not only is it giving you, little bits of wisdom, the same way dreams would, but it's really tapping into something else, something else that's bigger than that.
I think even people who aren't used to having intuitive experiences, if you ask them about songs that come to them spontaneously, and then you go, what are the lyrics of the song? And they go through the lyrics, they're like, oh wow, yeah, the lyrics are finding us through the music, the message that we need. So with your mom, how soon after her passing did all of this start with the divination?
Probably a year or so after. I just kept noticing that I'd be like, Mom, where are you? And I'd be going out about in my day, and there'd be a song that she used to play or a lyric of something she used to say to me. And so I was like, okay, she's speaking to me a lot through music. And maybe because I had blinders on to a lot of the other ways she would come in, she was like, oh, she loves music. That's the way that we're going to have conversations. And so it really has been the last 10 years of like, okay, Mom, I need advice. I'll sit down, I'll do my own little shuffle, and something will come through that's like that. Without a shadow of a doubt, that's my mom. It's her energy. It's like how she would speak, except it's through the medium of music, which we can all relate to and we all love.
Mm. So your mom's clearly very important to you. How do you feel that her no longer being here, but very much here in your aura and with you, how do you feel that's changed you, or what do you think that's brought forward in you now that you're having to walk without her on the physical but connected to her spiritually?
I don't even think I'd be sitting here had my mom not passed. I feel like I was on kind of a different trajectory, and her passing really gave me the energy to be like, okay, I only live once. It kind of like woke me up. Anyone who's had an experience like that knows the next day after you've lost someone, life feels like it's in technicolor. It's like, I don't know if I was awake before then, but everything is so visceral. I can feel it so much. And as much as I would love her to still be here, I think she had her own timing. And what she did was give me such a grand gift. It really set me on my path. It gave me more confidence. It just really pushed me. It's like almost like a baby bird getting pushed out. It's like, no, you have wings. Go fly. Yeah. So yeah, that's definitely the push that she gave.
Beautiful. And when you were little, was creativity, did you come out of the womb creative? I did. Yeah, because I guessed that about you. That was one of the things I enjoyed when I first met you. I was like, oh, she's a wild creative and very expressive. So you had that in you from day one.
I did, but I didn't appreciate that it was going to be such a gift in my life. I think I compared myself to people that were good at other things. Like I would get marks from the teacher like, oh, she's so creative, most creative. But for some reason it didn't. I was just like, oh, that doesn't feel like I think it should. And, I think in the last 10, 15 years, it dawned on me what a gift it is to be a creator, because that's what we came here to do. We didn't just come to consume other people's information and projects. And so it's really been like this gift that I slept on for a long time that now I'm like, oh, this is actually currency. Like being creative in this time is one of the biggest messages I have for people, is like reclaiming that creative spark that's within them. And it's not just like you're a painter or you're singing. It's just about bringing forth something that's within you that wants to come out. That's a creative force. So yeah, I think it took me a while to be like, oh, this is actually a tremendous gift, because in the beginning it didn't feel like that.
Well, when I was speaking to you earlier, I told you that one of your brilliant skills is the curation of creativity as well as what you create, which is its own art form.
Yeah.
There are some amazing creatives on the planet, but they don't necessarily curate the creativity of others. And you have a real gift around that. So when I told you about how I feel about your Instagram curation and the way you present these, in a way, that Instagram collages. That's kind of what I feel like you do. And it wouldn't be as powerful if it was one.
Yeah.
Like when we go through the series that you've curated for us. So I was not at all surprised when you told me that lots of people have come knocking on your door for help with their own Instagram page and what they're doing. And you now have a whole program for that with people. Can you tell us a little about that?
Yeah, sure. I mean, we were talking off camera about how long it took me just to be like, okay, I'll do this, because I had kind of put it into this part of my brain where it was like, okay, this is not what you're here to do. You have like a spiritual message that you need to get out. This isn't a part of it. And then people kept asking. I kept doing little one-offs, and I'm like, oh, there's actually something to working in the ether. It's so similar to spiritual energy, how we're all connected. It's actually alchemical. And so this year I launched something called Algorithm Alchemy, and it's dawning on me even more how, well, for me, Instagram feels like it's my radio station. It feels like this kind of set, but energetically. And so I got to get on, lights, camera, action, share my gifts and talents. I saw how many doors it was opening. I met my beloved that way. It's just been it feels like school. I'm like, oh, I get to go online and see what Lee's up to. I get to go online and see what this person's up to. And so really, I think part of my magic too is distillation. So it took me a long time to be like, okay, well, what am I actually doing? How can I communicate that to people? And not so they'll be like little clones of me, but so they'll step into that space and be like, okay, if I want to create community, if I want to create some ethos around what I'm doing, then this is a way not to have to bow to the algorithm or to trends, but to give something that's true. And so that's been a big part of it. And, part of what I'm teaching there is like barrier to entry. So they're like looking at what I do and they're like, okay, I'm like, no. It's like you could be an expert curator. You could make quotes. You could do so many things that really stop people in their tracks and help them to feel something, but it has to be true and vulnerable to you. So it's been really fun and life-changing to overlay like alchemical, mystical principles over something like social media that we can, it definitely has its pitfalls, of course. But it's also an opportunity for everyone. It's like, free press, free promo. It's like the internet has changed the game. AI is changing the game. And I really want people to not fear it, but to be able to step into it with authenticity and power.
Beautiful, beautiful. And you mentioned, that your perhaps hesitation around owning that alchemical algorithm magic that you're capable of creating and now you're imparting to others was you felt like you had this spiritual purpose. And so when did spirituality or the sense of spirituality first come into your life?
Yeah. I mean, I think it's one of those things that was always there. And I was always a little bit different than my friends, could remember not necessarily past lives. I just came in with a lot of questions about reality, and none of the ways that my parents or teachers were answering, I was like, no, that's not quite it. I'm just going to keep searching. And so it really sent me on the many paths. It seems like there's one core truth or like feeling in my body, but I've gone down all the different paths of mysticism and Christianity and looking at the way people do things. And it's always been there. And I've just known that was part of my mission. I didn't know what shape or package or form it would take. And over the years, it's been different things. I think that's part of being an expert curator. Is you have to take in a lot of different things. But yeah, it's always been a really present force in my life.
And what about divination? Because you're someone who I associate very much with divination, actually, even though, that's so in your imprint. Yeah. And it doesn't surprise me that you are now a custodian of divination for others and that you are
I love that
alchemically creating ways that we can experience divination in a new way. Yeah, what's your soul relationship to divination?
That's such a good question. It's all about intuition. I think a lot of us don't know the voice of intuition. And so when you're working with something else that's like an intermediary that's outside of you, and it says something that you already know. This happens to people all the time. They're working with their cards. They get a card. They're like, oh, I knew it. Or they get a card and they want to throw it down because inside they already know it. So for me, it's actually about strengthening the muscle. Like I love working in threes. And so there's your intuition, and then there's something that can help sharpen it. And so as soon as I really clicked in with divination, I grew up very Christian. And so it wasn't anywhere near me. And then it's funny enough is that I won a reading from someone on Hay House, and I can't even remember his name. I wish I could remember his name right now. But he sent me his deck afterwards. And so I just was obsessed. And then I worked for Colette for a while, and she's the fairy godmother of
yes. That's so wonderful. I didn't know you worked for her.
She's a dear friend and mentor. She's another person that kicks me out of the roof. She's like, this is what you're supposed to be doing.
Right.
You can't support me anymore. And so, yeah, it feels like just a tool for people to really go inward and realize that all the answers are within.
Beautiful. It's funny. So in your Christianity, because is it quite typical in Christianity that it's a no divination?
Yeah.
I don't know enough about all the different subgroups, but yeah.
At least when I was growing up, it was something that was frowned upon. There's some key memories I have where either my parents would talk negatively about it, or it just wasn't in my ethos. But then as I started opening up to these different pathways, I started hearing about it more, and I thought, you know what, I'm fearing this thing and I haven't even tried it. And so once I did, I was like, oh, there's nothing dark or evil about this, and just really took to it as a way to sharpen my own intuitive knowledge.
So with your own journey around intuition, and now you've worked with lots of people, what would you say is a good tip for someone who is questioning whether or not they're intuitive, or how to work with it, or something you might say to yourself to save yourself time back in the day?
Well, so 80% of communication is nonverbal. So we can all walk in a room and start to pick up on little things. And I think just knowing that. Have you started to listen to this podcast about telepathy?
Oh, God. You are like the seventh person. This is the telepathy tapes, right?
Yes.
Okay, I've got to. Now everyone is telling me about. Everyone is telling me about this.
Well, it's it's so here now, and part of me is yes, it's it. Not that it feels obvious to me. I'm so glad that someone is testing this out, so it doesn't end up being a dark or evil or demonic thing that these kids are doing. They're so tapped in because they're nonverbal. They have all these other skill sets that come online. I'm kind of going on a tangent, but like part of dreams is that they're all telepathic. Like there's a part of us that's always in connection with this. You know, I'm looking at different aspects of my life, and so part of it is just realizing that we're born like that. And you know, there's some people that their channels are much more open, but we can all regain that sense of, you know, feeling intuitive, feeling instinctual, feeling like, okay, I know something is coming. Yeah, that's what I would say, is that it's just who we are. And sometimes it's about actually unschooling. That's a part of like what I'm doing now, is getting rid of the things that would get in the way of my intuition, beliefs I've had, you know, things that have been imprinted on me that weren't even mine in the beginning. It's more about like releasing than adding anything, knowing that we already are.
It's interesting hearing you talk about telepathy in that way. You know, it's funny, I guess I've never really thought about it, but my experience with my guides, the Z's, is like telepathy.
Yeah.
Because like we can be sat here now and I can literally go, ask a question, and I will hear. So there is a telepathic thing there, but they said to me that I heard them until I was 6 years old. I do not remember that at all. I did have there's only one repetitive dream I had as a child, and it involved meeting them downstairs. And I didn't put it together, but they said you could hear us until you were 6, and then it would have been very inconvenient for your life. So we didn't come back until you were 23.
Okay.
So that's very interesting to me, because I'm like, well, I don't remember that. I have no memories of talking to them until I was 6. But
Yeah.
how unschooled we all are.
Exactly.
Like we just get sucked out of us, right? You know, the society that we live in. And
Yeah.
unless you are someone who lives in a more reverent culture,
Yeah.
or perhaps just your family's traditions are a little more reverent for the soul, the senses, our connection with nature and each other being far beyond what we're trained into.
Yeah.
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 Interesting. We'll be right back to the conversation in just a moment, so stay tuned. London, are you ready for energy mastery? Who here likes the idea of a little bit of gentleness after the last few months? Yeah, me too.
Embrace your power and transform your life over a weekend of cosmic connection and soul expansion with Lee Harris.
When you come together with a focused intent to increase your energy mastery, and you do that with a group of people, incredible amplification happens.
Join us for channeled wisdom, grounded teaching, soul-infused music with Devor Bozique, community participation, and connection.
You never know who's going to show up, you never know what's going to be asked, you never know what's going to be focused in the room. It's the beauty of being live with each other that is its own co-creative mystery.
Energy Mastery with Lee Harris, September 13th and 14th in London. Limited seating, reserve now.
So you just talked about unlearning, and I know one of the things, I mean, you've done many things over the years. I've watched the evolution of what you've done. So I think when we first met, you were doing something called the Girlfriend Manifesto. What was that?
Yeah. That's, oh my goodness, that's like vintage me. Well, that was like my entryway into being online. I'd wanted to have I think back then it was like you would have a blog or you'd have a YouTube, and I dabbled in those and it really didn't stick. And so, yeah, I tried a lot of different things. But when I got online, there was this momentum that really started happening really quickly. And a lot of people started coming and people started referring to it as my work. And I was like, this is my work? Okay. Like, how fun. I get to like distill these mystical ideas into little, you know, bite-sized bits for people. And then I started getting asked to do podcasts and worked with a lot of people who were Hay House authors, and really just kind of soaked everything up and learned like how people do it. I like to watch, I like to stand back and like watch how it was all done. And so the Girlfriend Manifesto was just a name for this kind of movement that I really saw was needed back then. And it had 4 different pillars, and it was sisterhood, adventure, spirituality, and oh man, what was the 4th one? It's been a minute. So that was like the beginning of it all. But it really was just my entry into sharing myself online, and I just kept opening doors. Like the next one would open, the next one would open, and it was really because I started just sharing. And so that was that.
And a lot of your work has been around helping women re-find themselves, re-find their mojo, kind of re-actualize. What do you think has led you to be a space holder for that? And whether it's your personal life or just what you're built for, I was just curious.
That's a good question. I've never really thought about that. But the first thing that occurs to me is just like a strong mother and a strong grandmother. And they always had a presence. They really like raised me right, so to speak. And so when I think about how easy it is for women to get like, this is the only title that matters, I'm only this thing. Yeah, a lot of people come to me because they want to feel creatively expressed. And there's something about the way that I move that makes them feel like they can too. And so I've always felt like we were talking about just me feeling like an introvert. But one of the things I did to make friends when I was little is I would find someone that was more introverted than me. And then I could just like show off and be like, you know, it's like, it was okay. And so something about that has really stuck with me, this permission slip to really like be who I am and to invite people to do the same thing. Like one of the things I like about my spaces, they're just so diverse. It's just a motley crew. And I'm like, oh, that's how I roll. Like, I like that it's so many different types of people and we all have our unique kind of magic. And that's like, I just love stoking flames. I'm like, more. We need this. And that's just always felt like it was in me, you know, not like something I had to effort to find or to do or to be. So it feels easy to like let it overflow.
When you mentioned that earlier, we were talking about, you know, you being an introvert, and you said to me, which is very insightful, you said, I'm a homebody, even though I do this public work. And I think you're the same. And I'm like, yeah, completely. Yeah. Like to the point where I'm very happy at home, love being at home, like having people come to me. Right. I'll go places, but, you know, quiet life, but public work. Mm-hmm. How have you navigated putting your work out there? And I ask you that question not just to ask about you personally, but I'm sure there will be people watching who are inspired by what you're doing in the world. And yet one of the things so many people have fear around is putting themselves out there, the realm of public opinion. Yeah. Is there anything that, you know, you would share about your journey with that might be helpful to people who are considering it but are nervous because they are introverts or homebodies?
Yeah. One of the things I say a lot in Algorithm Alchemy is inviting people to tiptoe into the frame. And so, you know, you don't have to come out like, here I am, I'm Lady Gaga, film me, you know.
But she did that very well. I mean, I'm sure there were years of rehearsal before, but boy, she came out ready-made. She was like, wow,
I don't know why I thought of
supernova.
her, but exactly, you don't have to come out like that. You literally can tiptoe into the frame, because that's what I did. I was like, I'll stick my toe out. In the beginning, I didn't really show my face a lot. I showed the ideas that it had inspired me, or I shared essays, I shared words. And then I got a little bit of confidence with that. And then I started being like, oh, I actually feel really okay on film when I'm doing it. When I'm in my little house and I'm sharing something, I get a nudge from Spirit. I get on, I share it. Like recently, Spirit was like, you're a teacher. And I was like, oh, I don't know, again, a title I rejected. And now I'm like, I actually love it. It's so much fun to be able to inspire people's minds to think in a different way, to really reclaim something that's outside of groupthink. And I know that's also really scary for people because, you know, I think we're coming out of cancel culture, actually, and we're coming into like a renaissance of who we really are. So, I mean, I would say tiptoe into the frame, take your time, check out the water. You know, sometimes you need to make a big splash and just jump right in. But I think there is something about just like titrating your sense of okayness with being seen. And that's really more of how I teach. There are people that'll just, they'll be like that pace, and that's okay too. But a lot of us need that time to just slowly move into it.
I think you hit on a really good point there where you talk about there are people who will go at a big pace. And I think one of the things that we can all do is we compare ourselves wrongly to other people. Yeah. So we go, oh, well, I'm a bit like that person, so I should be doing it that way. Yeah, but you're only a bit like that person. You are not that person. They are unique. You are unique. So I think there is something to trusting that who you are will find its way. And yeah, tiptoeing in is a good way of learning about the water, seeing how you swim, seeing how people respond to you swimming. And at a certain point, things just start flowing, or you find your groove or your rhythm.
Yeah, that's exactly it. I saw a flower blooming in my head, and it's like, the sun starts to penetrate, you start to have the idea that you'd like to do this, and like one petal opens and then the other one, and then, you know, eventually it's this full bloom thing, and you do create the momentum, but it is a gradual, at least for me, it was a gradual process, and I appreciate that.
What's lovely is I'm flashing back to being in your car like 7 years ago when we were both more babies than we are now, and not who we are now, but we were becoming who we are now. And it's funny because as I sit with you today, the word teacher, absolutely. But back then, teacher wouldn't, like, you were the, what I could feel about you then was this creative, insightful force. That's what you felt like to me. And I didn't know you well enough to say this with authority.
Yeah.
But I'm enjoying the teacher aspect of you that I have witnessed kind of come to being over the years. And it's true. I mean, it's like the same for any of us. We can only get there by the practice, by the doing of it, and the repetition of the doing of it.
Yes. That's every day I say we're building a muscle. That's
so
it.
True.
We're just building a muscle. It's going to be weird. It's going to feel weird. It's going to feel like a weird haircut for a while, but we're just going to keep building the muscle. And that's like, I mean, that's the kind of like teacher energy I give out. It's like leading by example, and that we're just building something slowly. There's no pressure on it. Like in the creative field, we can do it all, right? We can throw it all on the canvas. It doesn't have to be perfect. A lot of it is just about the doing of it. Like, make bad art before you make good art. Just make the art. Just give the offering and worry less about the likes and whatever. And I think like people are getting it.
I think so. And I was thinking the other day, I think we're in this new era where everyone can teach in a way that perhaps we couldn't. Like when I was younger growing up, I couldn't go to YouTube to figure out how to change the battery on a weird smoke alarm in the house I rent that I don't really understand. But now as long as I can get the model number, some lovely man in Canada in his kitchen is showing me how to, and I'm like, this is amazing. Like this, what a nice man, you know? That's pretty extraordinary, but we couldn't do that 25 years ago, could we? It just didn't exist. So I think in a way, all of us, and everyone is a teacher to somebody in their life at some point.
Exactly. Yeah.
Or you might be a teacher 9 times a day in a moment of helping someone with something. So the teacher word is quite loaded, but if you think about it, we're all helping, teaching, guiding each other in so many ways. We just now, through the internet, there is a forum in which you can create that for yourself and for others.
Yeah. I mean, we literally live in a time where anything is possible. It's like the internet has been one of the great equalizers, and, you know, there's YouTube University for anything you want to learn how to do, as long as you can sit down and be devoted and be disciplined to it. Those are the people that we're watching now because they did that. And I'm like, wow, there is so much power to this invisible net. And I want to educate myself on it more, and I want to guide people into it because it does feel like one of the tools of the new era that we're going into. We can all have our little radio station, our voice, something out there. And, you know, I think that that's pretty powerful.
So let's swing back to something personal for a second. So being a homebody, you are not just a homebody, but you told me earlier that not that long ago you moved to a farm.
Yeah.
That's pretty wild. So what is it like? What have you noticed for yourself and your spirit? I've never lived on a farm. And I know for you that wasn't the kind of reality you were in before. So what has that experience been like for every part of you? You as a human, you as a creative, you as someone tapping in, suddenly surrounded by all this nature.
Yeah, I like this trail that we're walking. It's a full circle moment for me because I did grow up in kind of a small town in Tennessee. And so I was like an on the, you know, barefoot, like on the land kind of person. And then life took me other places and really was kind of praying, hoping for something like this. And so, yeah, the last 3 years I've lived a little outside of Austin on about 40 acres with my man and his family. They moved actually from California right around 2020, a little before that. And so
The Great Migration.
exactly, part of the Great Migration. At least we're outside of Austin. And yeah, just started to set down roots in Texas and plant literal seeds in the earth. And so I think watching someone tend the earth and not tend it in a way that's extractive, but actually be about the rehabilitation of the place, it's just been so special for me to connect deeper into nature and, watch things like, there's a hawk I have a special relationship with. Now that there's a body of water on the land, so many more animals are coming through and so many more messages are coming through. And I think part of the antidote for now is to really find a place where you can be close to nature and you can experience it. So I think it's made me more creative. It's made me more tapped into, my instinctual self, and it's just kind of fun. Like I had been married, unmarried. I have a husband. And I was like, you know what? I just want a boyfriend with a dog and a simple life. And I kind of got all of that. And so I'm living that. And his family is super special. He's super special. And the land that we're living on is also it's enchanted.
Amazing. Yeah, which is perfect for you with all that you're doing and creating. And I know that one thing that you were sharing that you've created now is a new teaching platform that is both for you and for other teachers. Could you share a little about that?
Yeah. So first of all, I called it the Humanities, and that name kept coming to me. It's like this happens a lot to me. I know I'll understand a word, but I'll keep writing it. And so when I finally looked it up, I was like, oh, these are the academic studies that kind of got pushed to the side, but they're actually the languages of the soul. So it's like poetry and music and philosophy and like how we think about life. And so I was like, you know what? I've been dabbling with a lot of things. And one of the red threads is this idea of online learning. I actually really love it, but it needs to be reimagined. There's things about it that need to be reimagined. So Humanities really is that. I call it the unlearning portal, because yes, we're going to learn things like really practical skills, but through the lens of the soul and through the lens of the not hustle culture, so like sustainable, paced, but also part of what I really want to create that I'm doing now is a library, sort of like a streaming library of creators, just like myself, who have a voice, but may not have the tools to get online. So there's going to be courses similar to kind of like a master class, but like really cool pairings that you can't find anywhere else. And so the first two courses on that are mine, the algorithm alchemy, and then I have a women's dream cohort called For the Dreamers. But there's a bunch of other things in the works right now. And yeah, it's been amazing to feel the energy come together, and really the how quickly people came when I was like, okay, I'll teach you social media, and we're gonna talk about dreams at least twice a month, because that has also been something that's really key to me, is the dream time and the dreams that come in. So yeah.
And for someone who hasn't really explored dreams before or hasn't really looked into it, what would you say is the potency or the importance of our dream time?
Yeah. I mean, I really do call it medicine. It really is medicine. And so there's the kind of like Jungian thoughts about dreams, which I enjoy. I think that's like maybe a third of how I view dreams. So as a way to move into shadow work. So dreams are basically that. And there's also this vast intelligence. I've had a lot of dreams where they've happened later. And I wouldn't say that I was like a dream prophet, or I've been, I get all this information from dreams. I just think it's the wisdom of dreams that so many cultures have made that such a big part of how they live life. They'd wake up during these times, they would share their dreams. And so dreams really give you a bird's eye view of what's going on inside. A lot of times we're like, I know something's going on. I've been wrestling with this thing. And if we spend a little bit of time with the symbols that are in our dreams, then it's potent and it's medicine. And I really feel like, you get the medicine of the dreams anyway, but you can like 10x that medicine when you start to interact with it. There's something about this idea of relationship that when you give your energy to something, it gives it back to you. The same with like the divination thing. I'm like, oh, I think this is a thing. And then as soon as I started doing it, this whole world opened up. And so dreams have been the same way for me. It's like, I know these are important. I remember dreams from when I was a kid. We talked a little bit about some like seminal dreams that just do not let you go. And so I've just explored that with different teachers and different modalities. And I'm like, okay, this is a type of healing modality that people don't really know is a healing modality. So
beautiful.
Yeah.
And I have to go back to something you said a few moments ago, because it really caught my attention, because I am in agreement with you. You talked about the online learning space needing to be reimagined. What could you share about that? Because I'm with you.
Yeah. Well, I just think it needs a creative lens. And for me, that's how it looks, how it feels going down for some reason is a phrase I want to say. And so for me, I was like, I need this to feel as close to we're in person as possible, you know? And that's what I'm trying to reimagine is how, and also fresh perspectives. That's like kind of the tagline of Humanities. It's like, okay, well, what are we really saying? Are we speaking from our wounding? Are we singing our true note, which is something I also like to say a lot. And so for me, you know, the beauty way. I like how if things are beautiful, if things are presented in a different way, I think it really kind of gets people's attention. I've been in a lot of containers where I didn't feel inspired to come back. Like they're just sitting in my inbox, and I'm like, if people come to my class and they're not inspired, they're just not ready.
Right.
Because I'm like, I'm giving them all my good stuff, you know?
Yeah.
It's like, it's beautiful, it's creative. Yeah, I just think it needs a little bit of like zhuzhing, it needs to be freshened up.
The way something is presented to someone is everything.
Yeah.
Like the way, you know, one of the things I've always had is I've always enjoyed creating my homes in a certain way.
Yes.
And if people are coming round, I will get things ready so they can come into the space. It's not that I care about tidiness or looking tidy to them. It's more, no, this space is not about to be mine.
Yeah.
It's whoever's coming in. And I, you know, not only myself, but my team members have a care and a passion around that. So we're always trying to go, okay, how can we make this online experience as well curated as we can? Because it's hard. I mean, it's, you know, you can't make an online experience like a live in-person experience. They're two different animals. But, you know, I do think it's important that a certain level of care is put on the vibration of beauty and creativity, because they are sensory for us. So they're their own piece of information that often I think people who aren't so used to looking at that stuff through a critical lens, or because they aren't used to working in that arena, they don't know why they were bored.
Yeah.
And they may not even notice they were bored, but they know they feel flat and they don't want to come back.
Yeah.
Whereas, you know, normally those of us that care about that stuff, we can go, well, we'll tell you why they were bored. How long have you got? Here's the list of 9 things that need to change. And I think anyone who's a passionate creative and has that sensory imprint, we always want to kind of work with that and make that. And that's one of the reasons I love your stuff, because I never feel shortchanged on a sensory or a creative level. And usually with you, I feel very filled up on those levels. It's like you are pouring it in and I'm like, this is great. This is great.
Well, yeah, just like you said, you can feel nourished and touched by a completely virtual space, right? So I agree. There's nothing like being in person, like seeing someone and feeling their energy in person. But how can we try to translate some of that stuff to the online space? Is I love creative tension, so I play with that a lot. It's actually a way that I think a lot of energy can be birthed. And so in my groups, it's like I've been in a lot of groups where there's almost like not enough holding. It's like I like to give prompts and I like to make us all do the same activity so we can all see the way we take one prompt and it's just so creative around the board. And then something like turns on in people's minds and they start to think of themselves as creative. because a lot of it's just about creative solutions. It can be something so simple, but if we're not, like, if our frame for life is something that's disempowering, like my whole thing is like, how do we pick a better frame so we can step into the miracle, so we can step into our own creativity? And that was really like part of how I wanted to reimagine us learning online, because it's like, it's here to stay. So how can I elevate it, do it in a way where it's like, you know, like chef's kiss, like really like they can feel it.
Absolutely. Well, you're doing it. And I should also clarify something I said. I've been to many live events that are very drab.
Yeah.
You know, I was just recently with a friend not that long ago who was presenting at a conference. And I was at the conference going, ooh, this is a bit 1989. You know what I mean? Yeah. And I don't mean that to be horrible but I was just like, oh, they need an elevation now because this feels old. So you can have something that's amazing online and a little lacking in person too. So I should just correct what I said. It's not a one size fits all. Yeah.
And that's the gift of creativity, is like that's the sprinkle on top that brings something to life. And I think about something I say a lot to people is, well, has this ever happened to you? So have you read a book and then you go see the movie and you're like, oh, this movie is, it's not that great. And what do you imagine the budget of that movie was? Millions, right? Sometimes billions. So it's like inside your mind, there is a creative notion that outdoes $1 million, $1 billion budget. So what does that tell you about the power that you are? Because that's happened to me. And I'm like, oh, okay, actually, that's gold. There's a lot in there that's beyond, you know, this amount of money.
Yes, 100%, 100%. So I guess the last thing I'm going to ask you is, what's next for you? I know you're working on things right now, but if you had like a vision for yourself, like 3 years from now, what if anything would be newly birthed in your life?
So much. Well, I really feel like I'm on my kind of unstoppable train with Humanities. So I feel really passionate about working with all different types of creators, creating courses, creating streaming things, creating some in-person things, not drab, not boring.
I'll be there.
I love it. You're so invited. I love the idea of a school, because I feel like I've always been such a student of life, and my soul feels really satiated when I'm actively trying to learn something. So having that as kind of my mood board, I'm like, oh, I'm gonna have like a prom, and we're gonna go do this, and I'm gonna have little field trips that take us like actually in a bus to some place, a sacred site, all together. Because I think one of the things that we are so much craving, because we're online so much, is like actual community. So part of Humanities' long-term goals and visions is to really gather people, to have little chapters, to be able to nurture in-person things as much as we do online. So yeah, I mean, so many plans. It's like, how long do you have?
Beautiful.
There's
beautiful,
a lot.
Beautiful. Well, thank you so much for being with us today. And I am going to be watching you for the next 7 years. And I know that the trail that you blaze will be fabulous. And I'm grateful you're here on the planet. And I think the way that you're impacting the world is beautiful. So thank you for all you do.
Thank you so much, Lee.
Yeah. Thank you for tuning in on today's show. And you can find all of Ayesha's work at the links that we provide in the show notes. And we'll look forward to seeing you next time. London, are you ready for energy mastery? Who here likes the idea of a little bit of gentleness after the last few months? Yeah, me too.
Embrace your power and transform your life over a weekend of cosmic connection and soul expansion with Lee Harris.
When you come together with a focused intent to increase your energy mastery, and you do that with a group of people, incredible amplification happens. Think about how many of you, as you get older, marvel at how fast time is moving. Seize the limits of linear time to motivate you to live.
Join us for channeled wisdom, grounded teaching, soul-infused music with Devor Bozique, community participation, and connection.
Like hit my soul in a level of like, wow, these are the things that I know, I'm thinking, I'm feeling, and how is somebody who I've never met speaking so much wisdom and truth?
I just saw people, their shoulders back, the light in their eyes, and the glow around their being. And I felt the same way. It's beautiful to witness.
Step into your energy mastery to reset and reconnect.
You are allowed. Create, creator, create.
You never know who's going to show up. You never know what's going to be asked. You never know what's going to be focused in the room. It's the beauty of being live with each other that is its own co-creative mystery.
Energy Mastery with Lee Harris, September 13th and 14th in London.
Thank you so much for being here.
Limited seating. Reserve now.